Welcome to HDTV. You're now rocking with your boy. James Gunn says people seeing movies primarily on streaming won't impact their legacy since it's always been TV that makes movies last. He's right. James Gunn is exactly right when he says big streaming releases aren't a huge problem because movies last because people can watch them at home, not just in theaters. The coronavirus pandemic threw the movie industry into disarray, further shifting big movie releases like The Suicide Squad away from the big screen and onto streaming. While theaters and big screen will always be a fixture in movie-going culture, thanks to a shrinking box office, they won't always be the biggest place to see movies. The event of streaming, especially the growth in big budget streaming releases like Tomorrow War and Army of the Dead, combined with shortened theatrical exclusive windows, has created a lot of conversations about big screen movies versus small screen movies, which in most cases is a mostly arbitrary point. Movies are movies, and while bigger screens and louder sound can certainly elevate a movie, the line between movies made for theater and movies made for home viewing isn't nearly so clear as it was in the days where non-theatrical films were almost all low-budget, straight-to-video B movies. The post-pandemic reopening of movie theaters and same-day streaming releases has changed the way we see theatrical releases, with some movies intended for blockbuster theatrical experiences being viewed primarily by huge audiences at home as the box office struggles to recover. Studios like Warner Brothers say they'll return to theatrical exclusive releases in 2022, but the streaming shift won't totally go away, especially with shorter exclusive windows, meaning the way we consume movies as a culture will never be the same, but in some ways will be the same as it ever was. The biggest elephant in the room with this topic is the fact that the ticket sales are drying up and have been for some time. While box office revenue has increased for some studios in recent years before the pandemic, the number of tickets being sold every year has actually been in decline for 2 decades, with theater attendance hitting an all-time low in 2017. The box office was being held afloat by price increases, which isn't viable long term. The decline started before the advent of streaming, but the increasing availability of the inexpensive quality streaming TV and movies at home has surely had an impact. It likely started with TV screens getting bigger and cheaper and home video being available on high quality formats at video rental stores in the late 90s, with the share of screen time at home only increasing yearly leading into the streaming boom. Not only is streaming growing in popularity while theaters are shrinking, but streaming is far more profitable, especially for studios with their own streaming platform. Disney's industry record-shattering box office performance in 2019 brought the company just over $11 billion, with Disney movies accounting for 80% of 2019's biggest hits. But those heights are hard to achieve on a yearly basis due to release schedules of big blockbuster IP franchises. With the stars aligning in 2019, so 7 of Disney's movies, Captain Marvel, Avengers, Endgame, Aladdin, The Lion King, Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, grossing over $1 billion, and Avengers Endgame setting the all-time record at $2.8 billion. Meanwhile, Netflix yearly revenue first eclipsed $11 billion in 2017 and has only grown since, posting nearly $25 billion in revenue in 2020. Disney Plus revenue, of course, exceeded the pandemic box office in 2020 and won't only do so again in 2021, but also exceed its record 2019 box office haul as well. Streaming revenues isn't just bigger for studios than box office grosses either. Studios share around half their box office revenue with theaters, even more internationally, whereas they get to keep the lion's shares of streaming revenue for their own content on their own platform, only sharing a small percentage with companies like Google or Amazon when their hardware is used to stream the movie. It doesn't take a big studio CEO to know massive revenue boosts and higher profit margins are a good combination. There's a reason Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar sees $1 billion streaming movie budgets in the future. So movies are going more and more to streaming. but how will that impact the way we watch them and talk about them? This brings us back to James Gunn's quote: movies last because they're seen on television. Jaws isn't still a classic because people are watching it in theaters. I've never seen Jaws in a movie theater. It's one of my favorite movies. Jaws is a great reference for Gunn's point because it's old enough that most people never had the opportunity to see it in the theater. Yet it's still widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. The same goes for many classics from Citizen Kane to The Godfather, or even some more modern movies like Fight Club, which bombed in the box office and gained a second life on DVD. Theaters have traditionally been a cultural touchstone for moviegoers, but they were also the primary or only way for a movie to make any money for most of that time. A movie may start a conversation when it hits theaters, but the home market determines if it's still talked about years later. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice is a great modern analogy, where the movie made a big initial splash at the box office and certainly started conversations, but writer Chris Terrio says it was sabotaged by studio cuts. It was the release of the 3 hour Ultimate Edition, aka Zack Snyder's director cut, that truly immortalized it with fans, keeping it in the conversation for years, serving as a major driving force behind the campaign for the Snyder cut, which has become a Hollywood legend now, despite only being released on streaming at the end of the day. There was a time when theaters were the only place most people could see movies. But the ability to watch, rewatch, pause, rewind, and truly pour over films at home redefined many people's relationships to cinema. Falling in love with larger than life stories at home while the theatrical experience may never return to what it once was. The home viewing experience will always be the primary way audiences build and maintain relationships with their favorite movies. So, is James Gunn right in saying that, streaming is the right way to go and it won't hurt? I mean, to me, I love the movie theaters. I haven't been back in a while because I've been busy, but I want to go to a movie. I might go this weekend, matter of fact, and go see that Reminiscent by Hugh Jackman. So, people streaming to me helps certain movies because like they said, Fight Club was a great movie to me, but it's just that in the box, but in the movies it just wasn't all that. So people look at it like, well, now this on DVD gets a second life, but streaming can also add to your numbers also for the movie. So you're having it in the movies and then on streaming you could get hit, you can get both incomes. Now, Godzilla vs. Kong was really the reason streaming just took off because of that, streaming made almost billion some dollars. It was crazy. The impact of that movie. Now I might be exaggerating because it's a billion. I don't know. It's in the millions, sums of billions, one of them, but it was crazy. But streaming to me, yes, it does hurt the movie theaters. I disagree with James Gunn because some movies may be made to see in movies better than seeing it on the TV or seeing streaming on TV, and it is what it is. But I think some people kind of look at it like, well, whatever. I think this will look better in this, or this will be better here. But to me, I just think they shouldn't get away from the movies, or all the movies. To me, I think they ought to keeping the movies, whereas you know and not just due to streaming, because to me streaming takes away from some good movies. Some movies are great, that you want to see in the theater, and I believe that the theater will start opening like they said in 2022, which is next year. DC saying they're going right back to the movie theaters, releasing more stuff on the movies instead of on the streaming. This year, I think they're just doing it because it's post COVID. They're trying to get these numbers down. These numbers are high right now. So when Scarlett Johansson got mad, she should have waited because you got to understand people are still scared to go because of COVID. And to me, streaming is hurting the movie theaters because you don't have to leave your house. You can save time and money. So to me, I hope they go back to the old way, putting stuff in the movie theaters where you have to go out and watch it. You can't wait for it on streams. So we'll see, man. Like I said, let me know in the comment section how you guys feel. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, or subscribe. Share this. Hit the notification bell to select all to receive upcoming notifications. And if you love what you hear, you can donate to the page by Cash Apping me at the word welcome, the number 2, and then HDIITV. Thank you all for listening, and we out. Deezy.